the US Embassy and the US State Department championing BNP and Tarique Rahman so much? There's a very simple reason for that. You see, Tarique Rahman was convicted based on evidence provided by FBI agents who had traveled to Bangladesh to testify against him in court. So the US has plenty of evidence to charge him with corruption and other things. They have chosen not to do that. Why? Because they have that in their hand. Under US law, the US takes upon itself the power that they can charge any foreign person in any country, including a head of state, and go arrest them. They have done that several times in Panama, even recently in Venezuela. I'm not debating whether those people deserved it or not, but the fact is the US can do that. So what does that make the BNP? That, you see, until recently, the BNP had vehemently opposed this referendum which would, without representation, change the constitution of our country. You see, our constitution has no scope for a referendum. Our courts have ruled that the referendums the military dictators held in the 80s and 90s were unconstitutional. Yet this regime is trying to hold a referendum again, even though it's not in the constitution. Courts have ruled that the referendums are unconstitutional, because that is the only way they can legitimately try to legitimize amending the constitution. And of course, in order to amend the constitution, you have to have a 2/3 majority. Well, if it was a fair election, it's almost impossible for one party to win a 2/3 majority on its own. There would have to be compromise. In this scenario, there isn't. So what you have now is Tarique Rahman and the BNP, who for months had vehemently campaigned against this referendum, just a few days ago, made a complete turnaround and said, yes, vote for yes for the referendum. Until now, they had been telling their voters to vote no. Just a few days ago, Tarique Rahman himself announced, vote yes. Why? Because the Americans really want this referendum. The State Department really wants this referendum. Why? It weakens the powers of the prime minister. It weakens the government. It makes a single party government almost impossible, so that there would always be a coalition government in Bangladesh, which would always be a weak government that can be controlled. And Tarique Rahman at this point really has to follow the bidding of the US Embassy in Bangladesh, and even when he's prime minister, he will have to continue to do that, because if not, the US can always bring up the corruption charges against him and simply arrest him from Bangladesh and put him in prison in the United States. This really is the dream scenario for the US State Department, to have a prime minister whom they have that much control over that they can arrest anytime and bring to their prison, in which case he cannot dare go outside anything they ask. On the other hand, you have Jamaat. Now, mind you, historically, Jamaat has never had much of a vote base. Jamaat polls at 5 to 10% in the country. They have 5 to 10% vote throughout the constituencies, but they have very few stronghold constituencies. If the Awami League were running, Jamaat would be confined to 5, maybe 10% of the seats. Even without the Awami League running, their poll numbers are at about 17%. So 10 to 15% of the seats is the maximum that Jamaat can hope to achieve with all parties running, which is why it was really critical for this regime that is backed by Jamaat to ban the Awami League. Their polls conducted by everyone else, showed that BNP wasn't really gaining in popularity. BNP stuck at about 20%. Jamaat is stuck 15 to 20%. That's only 40 or so percent of the vote. There's over half the country that is either undecided or in the last few polls, almost 18-20% refuse to say who they're going to vote for. Now, why are these people refusing to say? Because there's such a climate of fear that if they say they want to vote for the Awami League, they are likely to be attacked. And even in this climate of fear, 11% said they would vote for the Awami League, which is why it was critical for this regime to ban the largest progressive party, because there was actually a possibility that the Awami League, in a free and fair election, the Awami League might actually win. They could not take that risk. So now Jamaat is hoping that because they are within a few percent of the BNP, that perhaps if they can rig the elections a little bit, they can come to power. You've already seen this regime, for the first time in the history of Bangladesh, has allowed postal votes. Now, why have we not done postal votes in Bangladesh before? Because in Bangladesh, unlike other countries, it is very, very difficult to verify postal votes. You have no idea where those votes went, who filled them out, who sent them back. They're just tied to an NID number. And already there have been many videos that have surfaced online of thousands and thousands of postal votes, especially in Middle Eastern countries, at one location being opened and being pre-filled for Jamaat and for yes in the referendum by groups of people. That is what is the reality. And why use postal votes? Because if you do regular ballot stuffing during election day, it's too visible. Too many cameras, too many journalists. That will be too noticeable. Postal ballots, foreign observers have no insight. Journalists don't get to see. They have nothing. They just get the count from the election commission, and they have to believe it. So finally, we have the issue of what happens if Jamaat comes to power. Well, regardless of whether Jamaat comes to power or not, without the Awami League and the progressive parties, Jamaat is going to gain. Jamaat is going to gain outside influence in Bangladesh, which they would have no chance of otherwise. From where they might have had 10, 15, 20 seats maximum, now who knows? They are going to perform far beyond what their actual popularity will allow. You have heard Jamaat Samir recently made derogatory comments against women. They have done that repeatedly. Their charter calls for the establishment of an Islamic state based on Sharia law. That is Jamaat's goal. You see, the one thing people don't understand, as Muslims, you see, we are normal people. Most Muslims, moderate Muslims, when we talk about our opinions, when we form a political party, we base it on our political beliefs, that we are liberal, we are conservative. We don't espouse religion, just like other countries. You don't espouse that you are a religious party unless your goal is to establish governance based on religious law. That's sort of pointless unless you are an extremist. There is no reason for that. The only reason, there is no such thing as a moderate Islamist party. The fact that they are Islamists means they want Sharia law. And that is Jamaat's goal. You have seen this regime that is backed by Jamaat release all terrorists. You have had Al-Qaeda operatives known to the US, known to all foreign intelligence operating freely in Bangladesh under this regime. You have had Lashkar-e-Taliban commanders speak at public rallies in Bangladesh. That is what is happening. And for India, this should be very, very alarming. That regardless of whether BNP comes to power or not, Jamaat is going to have outside influence. And the BNP regime is going to be a puppet of the US Embassy. So Jamaat is going to have a complete free hand to do whatever they want. Pakistan is going to have a free hand to do whatever they want in Bangladesh. And this has some very, very serious security implications for India, for its eastern border. Now, many in this government, in the Indian government, of course, feel that they're doing their best, but it's not possible. It may not, these elections are impossible to stop. Well, the fact is, the international community now needs to denounce these elections as not free and fair. Not just because the Awami League is banned, but because all progressive parties are banned. They have a, in effect, ban. This is not an election. This is a show. And if you allow this show to move forward, if you allow this to happen, if you do not denounce it ahead of time as unfair, that not unacceptable, then they are going to go ahead. And you are going to have a stage-managed government. After that, what will happen to Bangladesh becomes very murky. How long that will continue? Again, impossible to predict. The Awami League itself is not going anywhere. The Awami League has 40% of the vote bank. We are the party of independence, the people that believe in progressiveness, liberalization, in the spirit of liberation, are tens of millions of voters. They're not going to change their mind overnight. Not even in a few years, it takes decades. But in the meantime, for those 5-10 years, what is Bangladesh going to become like? On one hand, you will have a weak government that is a foreign puppet. And on the other hand, you will have Islamists bringing in terrorists, conducting Islamic terrorist activity, trying to impose Sharia law. Minorities will be persecuted. Minorities will be fleeing the country. This is something that Jamaat, this is something that's been ongoing throughout. The only time in Bangladesh's history when minorities were absolutely safe, were the most safe, were the 17 years of the Awami League government. The only time in Bangladesh's history when Bangladesh was free from terrorism were the 17 years of the Awami League. The only time in India's history when its eastern borders were safe from insurgency from Bangladesh was during the Awami League's 17 years. These are facts. So I would like to thank the authors of this book for bringing out many of these facts to light. I would like to thank you in the audience for coming here to listen to me, to my message. And I would like to appeal to the international community that if you do not speak out against these elections now, where there's less than 11 days to go, worrying about voter turnout is irrelevant because they are stuffing numbers, the voter numbers, through postal ballots. They're intimidating voters to force them to go vote. That is what is happening in Bangladesh today. So the voter numbers are going to be inflated from reality regardless because of millions of postal votes, billions of fake postal votes. So that is my appeal. If you want security in Bangladesh, and again, this is not on behalf of the Awami League. If the people of Bangladesh, you believe they don't like the Awami League anymore, that's fine. Then let them vote against the Awami League. Why fear the Awami League running in the elections then? I'm not afraid of that. But this is your last chance to do something. This is your last chance to prevent Jamaat-e-Islam becoming a major force in Bangladeshi politics. This Islamism, radical Islam, and terrorism from becoming a major force in Bangladeshi politics for at least the next 5 to 10 years, perhaps even longer. This is really your last chance. I would like to thank you all again. I appreciate all the efforts that everyone here has put in, and thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak. Jai Bangla.